Angela.
I'm an addict. My name is Angela. Angela. I will need that water, so I'm going to keep it close. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Oh, wow. Thank you. Do that one more time. I'm an addict. My name's Angela. Man, I mean, without words, grateful to be here, right? I'll say that first. I want to calm my heart and catch my breath and just say a couple of things first. Thank you to the Mountaineer region for asking me to come and speak and to participate in my recovery and to allow me the opportunity to be of service and connect, you know, to get to know people and let people get to know me a little bit, which is not the easiest thing in the world for me, but it's worth it. I want to say thank you, Mike, for the introduction. I value the relationship and the friendship that I have with Mike and his lovely wife, Kathy. My husband and I, you know, we look forward to spending time with them, and you know, that relationship has developed and grown, and I cherish it. You know, the caliber of people that I have in my life today are, man, I don't really have the words to describe it. You know, I am so elevated by the love and the relationship that I get to have with the people because of Narcotics Anonymous. I have to say, I love Narcotics Anonymous. You know, I love recovery. Yeah. And I have to also say, like, the nerves are here, you know, and I've talked about this a couple times, and I've shared it before. I've shared at a convention before, and like I've been nervous, you know, I have that fear. But like the line between nervous and excited is very fine, and it's real close together. It's real close. So I have a choice today, right? Narcotics Anonymous gives me a choice for perspective, and I choose to be excited. All right, I'm going to be excited. It was a little eerie in here a little while ago. This room was so quiet. And I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? But I think that was kind of the calm before the storm. Because I'm kind of stormy right now, but that'll settle down hopefully. And, you know, I really just hope that I can get out of the way and allow my higher power, you know, my husband and I said a quick prayer before we walked into this building. And thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for your love and support and for being the person that you are to me. I have to say, man, I also want to just say real quick, like I really appreciate my relationship with my sponsor. She knows me. And she loves me in spite of me. She knows me and she doesn't judge me. She knows me and she supports me and loves me. And she's shown me how to be a woman in this program. And she has been an example to me, you know, about how we show up for each other and how the process of recovery works. I also appreciate the other side of that. I appreciate my sponsees, the two-way street, you know, they trust me with this, we do life together, you know, this journey, this thing it's beautiful and it's amazing and it's powerful and it's hard and sometimes it sucks and sometimes it's, you know, just, it's all over, right? And we get to do it together, whatever it is. And so I have a relationship with a higher power today, only through Narcotics Anonymous. And when you share, I was always taught that when I share my story, I'm supposed to talk about what happened, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I'm going to try to touch on all of that. Get myself out of the way. I also want to say this is my second time at Ripley. And, on the travel here from Florida, the first time, Sean expressed to my husband and I how special this place is, how captivating and how it can just fill up your spirit kind of thing. And I believed him. And last year when I came here, I experienced that. And I know this is relatively a smaller convention. It reminds me of a spiritual retreat in a way, and it feels like that to me. It rejuvenates and it fills up. The theme of this convention is restoration to sanity. Right? I love step 2. I love all the steps. I love recovery. I love the life that it has afforded me and allowed me to have today, and the person that I have been able to become through that process. I met some people here last year, and I remember them and the conversations that we had, and I thought about primarily Justin and Kelsey. I met them last year, and I experienced a connection with them, and the struggle and the place where they were at in their recovery. They had a few years clean. They weren't going to meetings. They didn't really know if they wanted to do this. It was too much. It didn't fit with their life. Recovery, they were too busy for meetings and stuff, right? And we get there. We get to those places. And all through this year, and I didn't know I was going to speak until just a couple months ago, but all through this year, I thought about them several times, and I hoped that I would see them here. And I saw them in the welcome meeting. And let me tell you, that welcome meeting is special. That thing, it's special, and it it generates some feelings, and it right? The emotions get flowing, the fire happens, you know what I'm saying? Start feeling that energy. That's what it is. It's an energy, and it's a beautiful thing. And I saw them get up on the stage. And I'm going to tell you what, man, it kind of took my breath away for a minute, because these two people are not the same people that I met last year. They are, but they're not. He's gained weight, right? He's going to meetings. He's thriving. He's doing service. He's doing step work. She lost weight. She's beautiful, and she's doing her recovery. You know what I mean? I had an opportunity to talk to them after that welcome and connect with them again, man, and just share conversation. And the reason I tell you this story is because connection is so important. And sometimes we just connect with people, man, and that's special. When that happens, I don't want to lose that, What I have learned is that connection is the opposite of addiction. Addiction and using it's lonely, and it's isolating, and it is in a closet or in a bathroom, or like my husband likes to say, I got really this much, but I'll tell you I got this much, so I don't have to share mine with you and go do mine on my own by myself, right? Addiction is not connection at all. And connection is the opposite of that. And I have been given the opportunity through Narcotics Anonymous to have connections like I never, ever, ever thought that I could have in my life. Who and what I had become in my using and in my addiction, was the opposite of that. You know, it was the insanity. It was the insanity. Just like everybody else, or we wouldn't be in Narcotics Anonymous, right? And I know that we can, like, I see the head shakes. I see it, right? You guys, you get it, you know. And I know that some of our stories may be a little bit different, but the thing that we share in addiction is grip, obsession, compulsion, and pain. The pain. I just wanted to stop hurting. Like, I didn't want to be happy. I didn't want to be, you know, I wasn't looking for all of that. I just wanted to be okay. Okay would have been enough, right? And, you know, Narcotics Anonymous has given me so much more than that. So much more. So, in the process of this, I was about 8 years old. I was born in Florida. I'm a Floridian. Polk County. If you've ever heard of Polk County, you already know my story. Oh, man. Yeah, okay. So, I was born in Florida, about 8 years old. And, you know, just to tell you a little bit, like, I grew up, my dad's been with us since I was 2. My mom, they're still married 45 years. There's 3 children. I was a middle child, and I'm the only girl. So I have 2 brothers. That makes me a princess, right? I'm a girl, yeah. And so, you know, whatever issues my family had, I have to tell you that I knew love. I knew love. They loved me, you know, the unconditional love. I had that. Even if I pushed it away and didn't believe it at times, that was given to me as a child. So at about 8 years old, we lived in a not great neighborhood at the time. My dad traveled. My mom was agoraphobic, so she was like in lockdown at home a lot. You know, it's an anxiety thing. So I had a lot of freedom to run around in the neighborhood with older kids, and I started stealing cigarettes and smoking cigarettes and, you know, hanging out with the neighborhood kids. And by the time I was 10 years old, I was smoking other kind of cigarettes and hanging out with different kind of, you know, neighborhood kids and just running the streets, really. And by the time I was 13 years old, was the first time I moved out of my parents' house. So you can tell, like, as a young child, how progressive and quick, you know, that part of things happened. So at 13, I was introduced to, man, it was a lifestyle, really, you know, and it started at 10, but at 13, I was introduced to things that would ultimately be my demise, right? And so moved out of my parents' house, acting like I'm an adult, really just a kid. And so, you know, learning in that lifestyle and experiencing things at that age was not anything that a child should experience. And I ended up, you know, eventually moving back in with my parents. And at 15 years old, I got a letter from the high school that I was at in 10th grade saying, "Don't bother coming back. You've missed too many days." Right? I just wouldn't go to school. I was busy. I was doing stuff. I was working. And yeah. Lifestyle. Yeah. So, kicked out of school at 15, and I wasn't mad. I was not upset about it. Like, that freed me up to do exactly what I wanted to do. You know, it freed me up to run the streets, sleep all day, not sleep at all, ever, for weeks, you know, whatever. And, you know, that, in that lifestyle and that progression, it was getting so bad that I would disappear for weeks. My parents never knew where I was at. And at 17 years old, my mom wanted to try to help fix me. She wanted to get me away from those people that were corrupting me. She wanted to, you know, get me away from the lifestyle. So we took a trip to Georgia to go visit family. And the reason I mentioned the trip is because on that trip is where I would meet the man that would be my first husband. And we met, we started dating, he came to Florida back and forth, and the day before I turned 18, I moved out of my parents' house and moved to Georgia with him. We ended up being together for about 5 years. We had a baby girl together, and at the end of that relationship, we didn't hate each other. Like, we didn't have a big falling out or anything. We had just come to a point where it was just easier to let things go rather than fight for it or work for it. We were young, and the thing about that for me though is that I did not know who I was. I had lost myself completely. If I ever had a self, at this point I was her mother and his wife, and there was really no Angela, substance, as a person. And so I moved back to Florida, brought my daughter with me. He's a good father, and we as parents had a conversation, and we decided, and this is higher power stuff, it was much more mature beyond the two of us to be able to do this, but we had a conversation that said, whatever she needs, the most important thing for our daughter is what we'll do and decide, regardless of what we want, And so that comes to fruition a little later in my story. So I go to Florida, bring my daughter with me, and we move in with my parents, and I was determined not to be a burden on my parents. And although I still used while I was in Georgia, it was not to the degree and the level that really did get me out of the lifestyle for a while, right? And it was more like social partying with friends and that kind of thing. But when I came back to Florida, I told myself, okay, you can party, but you can't do that drug. As long as you don't, and I promised myself, I won't do that drug because I know that's going to be a problem. But I can do everything else, right? Yeah, I can handle it. Like, it's fun and it's a party. And so my daughter and I moved to Florida and moved in with my parents. And like I said, I was determined not to be a burden on them financially. So, good addict I am, I get 3 jobs, right? Yep, I worked from 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning at a methadone clinic. Good job. And then I would go clean houses for friends. And then I worked in hospitality. I served and worked out of Beef O'Brady's. And so from burning the candle at both ends, basically. I'm there before the sun comes up, and I'm serving until the place closes. And, financially I was able to take care of myself and my daughter, but I was never there. I was not there. And so I was neglecting my child. My parents were taking good care of her. But it wasn't their responsibility to do that. My dad was the one that took her to school, preschool, the first day. It was not a bad situation, and I didn't really even see myself until later on, but it was neglect, and I wasn't there. I wasn't taking care of her. So anyway, fast forward a little bit, and my using progresses, and one day, I get an attitude because I don't like how much cut they put in my stuff, and pissed me off, right? And so I get this bright idea, because it's my ideas and attitudes that need to change. So I have an attitude, I get an idea, oh, well, F them, I'll go get what I really want. I know where it's at, right? So I did that. And that was not a good decision, not a good choice. So it's time for my lifestyle starts back, right? Time for my daughter to start school. Her birthday is September 11th. It's 11 days past the deadline. They won't let her start school in Florida. My ex-husband had just gotten remarried 1 year later to another Angie. And he had joined the Marines, so there's a lot of stuff going on in life. And So that conversation that we had when we left about doing the right thing for our daughter, no matter what we wanted, came back. And he had joined the Marines, he was married, and they would let her start school in the state that he was in. So we made the choice. You can feel it like a frog in my throat already. I'm telling you, like, this is the hardest thing that I ever did in my life. The hardest thing that I ever did was to let her leave and go live with them in another state. And although I didn't spend a lot of time there with her, she was like my reason. She was my why. She was my anchor. She kept me stabilized so that I didn't like go off the rails, right? And so we made the decision to let her go live with them. And when she left, something inside of me just broke. And that's when my disease, if it was a lifestyle before, it became an underworld at this point, and it became very, very dark. And I witnessed and experienced and was a part of things that I thought only happened on TV. I didn't know like there was a real world like this, you know. And it was seriously like it was. We kid about cartel stuff, you know, in our friendships, and you know, it was you know, it was abductions, and people were duct taped, and there were guns and stolen cars, and there was human trafficking, and it was dark. It was dark. And it got to the point where I was comfortable there, and I didn't care. I did not care about any sort of danger. I didn't care about me. I didn't care about you. I would literally step over people or step on them if it helped me get past, right? I just did not care, and that had become my lifestyle. And I was there for a few years. And the only way that I got out of that without dying, the only way I got out of that alive is because I got arrested. And so this is my rescue, right? I didn't know this then. I wasn't happy about it. But so I got arrested, and I spent 5 days in jail. And I had never been arrested before. Nothing previous. Spent 5 days in jail. My mom bonded me out. And over the next year, I would end up going back and forth to court in front of this judge. And I was looking at a 30-year sentence. And, you know, over that next year, I never showed up at that courtroom in front of that judge clean. I never showed up with any attempt to try to do the right thing. None. In fact, I was on that downward spiral. It was worse than it had ever been, you know. And so during that last year, I also became pregnant. And when I realized that I was pregnant, I was probably close to 6 months, I would say, because I was out of my mind. And so, you know, I told myself that I would not use, that I would taper down, that I would stop, that I would quit using while I was pregnant. I did not want to be pregnant and using drugs. And I could not quit. I could not. I was in the grip and I couldn't stop. And I'll tell you, this is one of the things that has caused me more shame and guilt. In my step work, this is one of the areas. I know I'm not alone in this. I know there are a lot of women that were pregnant and could not stop using, and you know, it's part of my story. And so, on the wee hours, the morning hours of January 11th of 1999, I was trying to fix, man. I was trying to get high, and I was trying to use and keep the days going, and I was so uncomfortable. I was so uncomfortable, and I couldn't sit down, and I couldn't lay down, and I couldn't stand up, and I was just all over the place. I was completely out of my mind. And my water broke. I was in labor. I didn't know it. Man, and so the people that I was with took me to the hospital, and they dropped me off outside because, they had warrants and guns and deals to make, and they couldn't be bothered with being at the hospital because, didn't have time for that. So they dropped me off, and, in this environment, in this, clinical hospital environment, I don't remember a whole lot of what happened, but I do remember laying on that gurney. I remember laying there, and I remember feeling, I was so horrified. I was so horrified by who and what I had become. I was horrified that I was laying there in labor, and I was just wishing I could have got high before I'd gone up there, basically, And I had my arm over my eyes as tight as I could get it, like strangling myself. And I had this thought of, if I can't see them, they can't see me. I just wanted to die. I wanted to be under the gurney, under the table. I wanted to be anywhere but where I was at. And so there was a cesarean. Next thing I know, they didn't bring a loving bundle to me. I didn't hear a baby cry. I never saw a baby. She was just gone. And so I remember waking up in the room, and then the next thing I knew, I was on my parents' couch. And I was on that couch for about 2 weeks. And I just shivered and shook. And I was broken. I was in that place of, I just really just wanted to die. And I didn't really think about how I could kill myself at that point, except that I had tried to use enough that would kill us both. Once I realized I wasn't going to stop using, I really tried to just do us both in. And now I'm laying on my parents' couch, and I'm just in that state of desperation, And I wasn't desperate for recovery. I was just desperate for void. I was just desperate for, just take me out of this, right? I didn't want to feel any of it. And so that was on a couple days later, I think. And so on January 29th would be the last time that I would go in front of this judge. So I had just given birth and lost this child. I was detoxing from weeks and months of using, and I went in front of this judge, and I'm facing 30 years in prison. And I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to feel. I had no words. I didn't know what to say. I got sentenced to 12 years in prison. And I went that day to the county to start serving my time. And first arrest, I hadn't been in and out. I hadn't been, on house arrest. I hadn't been, I had nothing. I had no experience with any of this, And I was mad. I was very angry. I was very, very angry. And I didn't think it was fair. All these people, had been arrested, and they had probation or drug court or house arrest or whatever, right? And why not me, right? Straight to prison, first charge. So I did my 30 days or whatever until they could transport me. I got to the prison. And within a couple of days of being at prison, my body shut down, and I basically died. I was still detoxing and still, coming off of the dope, and it's 45 days later. And so my body shut down, and I ended up in the infirmary, and my liver stopped, and my everything just stopped working, and my skin turned green and yellow and orange, and it was toxic. And the doctors did not know why I was still alive. They didn't know how I was surviving. And after several days, I was finally able to crawl to the shower and, anyway. So after 11 days, I got out, got onto the compound, and I got transferred a couple times, and I ended up at this Gadsden prison up in North Georgia in the Panhandle. And this would be where a different type of lifestyle journey would begin for me. I thought for sure I was going to get an appeal and I wouldn't serve all this time. They did run my charges concurrent, right? So all the charges ran at the same time rather than consecutively, which means I was sentenced to 12 years, but I was really going to do 4, okay? So that's, grace right there in itself. So I get to the prison and, a lot of things happened. I had been kicked out of school. I was put in what we called the drug dorm, which was like a treatment inside prison. It was a year-long program. So I did that. I got my GED. I did anger management. I did parenting classes. Like I did all the things, right? And so I had some exposure to some choices and some different things. I joined what we call Literacy Volunteers of America, and this was my first experience or first opportunity for service, although I didn't know what that was at the time. So with this Literacy Volunteers of America, I helped other women get their GEDs. And I helped other women, take data entry courses and accounting. And I wasn't stupid. That wasn't why I got kicked out of school. I just wouldn't go, And so once I got some of the classes and stuff myself, I then helped other people. And all I knew is that it felt good, It felt good. It filled my spirit with something that felt good. And I know now why and what that is. That's service work, right? It's giving back, it's helping somebody else. It's not obsessing about myself for a moment, And so I did those things while I was there. I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous while I was in this prison. And we did both fellowships or anything that we could do to get out of the dorm primarily. But there was something that spoke to me, when I went to these meetings. And I thought, that the complete abstinence thing was foreign to me. I thought, well, I can still hang out with my dad and drink beer and smoke weed and watch football. I'll be that chick on the front porch, in the rocking chair smoking weed until I'm 85. I thought as long as I don't do, and I learned through the process, that's not going to happen for me, right? So anyway, go through, I get introduced to some things in recovery and in prison while I'm there. I get what I called a mentor because I didn't know about sponsorship yet. And I had a woman who had some recovery on the outside, and she walked me through my first round of steps. We did it on the worksheets, and that was my foundation for Narcotics Anonymous recovery and the first time that I was able to work the steps. While I was in prison, my sister... So I told you I had 2 brothers. When I was 16, I found out that I had a sister by my biological father, and I met her, and we had a relationship. Well, while I was in prison, we were writing letters to each other, and she had a little girl as well. So I have a niece, and we had all these plans. We were gonna really develop our relationship as sisters and let our daughters really be cousins and really develop that, right? And while I was there, she got killed. She got hit by a semi. She was intoxicated. So as a result of her disease, she died. And we never got the opportunity to do that. And it was right there at 9/11. Happened at the same time, It was a very difficult time for me while I was there. I ended up serving the rest of my time, and I get out of prison. I went to work release in Jacksonville, and while I was in work release, developed some relationships, things like that. I'll tell you, my parents used to come visit me while I was in prison, and while I was in work release, at the end of work release, the day I was being released from prison, my DOS, my parents came to pick me up, and not only did my parents show up, but my ex-husband showed up with his wife and their 2 kids and my daughter. They wanted to make sure that my daughter could be there, and the woman that my first husband married, I'm so grateful for her, because she was a mother to my daughter in a space that I could not be. I could not be there. And she would have her sit down and write me letters. She would have her call me, when we let her move before I went to prison. She was the instrument that helped keep the relationship, or have any relationship at all, with my daughter, and I'm so grateful, that she had the heart and the wherewithal to do that, because how many people would really do that, right? And she did, and she and her husband, the father, brought my daughter to be there when I got out of prison. And so they hadn't made any choice about what they were going to do. We went down the street to a Waffle House or something, and we sat and we talked, and and by the end of the time that we were there together, they decided to allow me to take my daughter with me to my parents' house. It was summertime. Man, the first night I got out of prison, I already had a setup. I already had a setup for a couple women to come pick me up and take me to a meeting. Right? I learned some things while I was in prison about, and I took some of those suggestions. And, there are statistics and things, and I really, I wanted to have a different life. I did not want to ever feel, I never, ever, ever wanted to feel the way that I felt. I was hopeless. A very lonely place to be, right? And so we took my daughter and we went home. I went to a meeting that night. I had family there. They cooked like the Last Supper, because prison food sucks, So, man, and that started me on my journey, and I'll tell you, when I got ready to leave to go to that first meeting, my daughter came running, and she was pulling on me. She's yanking on me, Mama, please don't go. Because she remembered how many times, she would pull on me and say, don't go. And I'd say, I'll be right back. And I wouldn't show up for 2 weeks, right? And so she's pulling on me, Mama, please don't go. Mama, please don't go. It's the first day I'm home. And I told her, I'll be right back, honey. I'm going to a meeting. I'll be right back. And she cried as I left. And about an hour and a half later, when I came through the door, she came running and she was crying. And she said, Mommy, you came back. You really did this time. Right? And I've had an opportunity to continue making amends to her. Living it, I was gone from the time, you're making me cry, Kelsey, stop it. Stop looking at her. So I was gone from 6 to 10 of her life and her age, right? So, man, from that time to now, we've had a beautiful opportunity to be able to restore. And the insanity was everything that I was before. And there was an opportunity for some restoration now, moving forward. And I continue to go to meetings, and I continue to grow recovery. And I got a lady came up to me, and she told me, I'll tell you, when I first went to meetings, I was not welcomed. I was not welcomed by people. They didn't know who I was, and I had 4 years clean, and they didn't know, right? Who's this new chick, right? And so They didn't really bring me into their circle, and I'll tell you, I have a heart for welcoming people, especially young, pretty girls in Narcotics Anonymous. I almost left Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you. I have black running down my face. I almost left Narcotics Anonymous because I didn't feel welcome. Right? I almost left, and I was going to where I knew I would be welcomed. And at the very last, the 11th hour, somebody called from across the parking lot because I was leaving, and they said, hey you, we're going to eat, you want to come with us, you know? And that was a turning point for me. So it's very, very, very important for me to welcome people, and to welcome men and women. I don't care. I'll carry a message to anybody. You know, primary purpose, carry a message, right? And you know, very important to welcome people. And so go to meetings. I get a job. Like I have been in prison. I didn't think I could get, you know, employment. I had become employable through that process, and had some help. You know, had some help from people that knew my past and my history, and they gave me a chance. And you know, go through life and fast forward a little bit. Man, I'm 10 years clean, and I'm doing the thing. I'm living the life. Like I'm in a new way of life. It's a new lifestyle, you know, and I'm in service, and I'm thriving. You know, life is good. I'm building, I'm repairing, and I'm making amends, and I'm doing everything that this program gives us an opportunity to do. And man, at 10 years clean, I was driving home from work, and I get a phone call, and it's a private investigator, right? And I'm like, what is this about? He says, were you in the hospital on January 11th of 1999? And I was like, yeah, I was. And I'll tell you, what I learned in that phone call was that baby did not die, that she was alive, that she had been adopted, and that her parents wanted to know if I wanted to meet her. Man, I was laughing and crying at the same time. Like, I didn't know what to think or how to feel. I didn't know that something like that could be possible. I thought that I had killed her, you know. So I had an opportunity to go to an office and meet the parents, and they were going to decide depending on who and what I was. And thankfully I had become, through this process, I had become a person that they felt comfortable letting their daughter be a part of, right? And they told me the only condition is that if you come into her life, you don't leave. You stay. You don't get bored. You don't, you know, it's not too hard. Like, if you come into her life, like, don't damage her. You stay and figure it out. And, you know, one of the hardest conversations I had was to have to tell my first daughter about the other daughter. And she said to me, oh my God, Mom, oh my God, when do we get to meet her? Right? And I was like, I don't know. And then she says, oh my God, well, what if you meet her and you like her more than you like me? Oh my goodness. So, you know, I got to meet her. We developed relationship. I got to make amends in that whole situation. My youngest daughter, they named her Maria Sophia. Italian parents. And she ended up being a bridesmaid at my older daughter's wedding. Right? Yeah, it's an amazing. She lived in spite of me. Right? She lived, and she had love. She had parents that cared for her, and a full life. And we now, I mean, today, it's indescribable. She'll be with us next weekend, 2 weekends from now. The beautiful thing about that is that she is the most forgiving, loving, compassionate person that I know ever in my life. Like she is brilliant. She graduated high school and she's, college, and she's doing all the degrees and all that stuff. And she writes papers about me. They asked her to write a paper about who's her hero. Man, she asked me if she could write this paper. And I was like, what? Me? Narcotics Anonymous has helped me become that person. What Narcotics Anonymous did for me in the process of the steps is it brought about an opportunity for me to have first some honesty about myself, right? I had to get honest, and then I was able to get some awareness, right? Some awareness, and after the awareness came and the honesty, then I was able to gain a little bit of acceptance for myself, right? And that was a longer process. Like, there was a lot in that. It was a big one. After the acceptance came, I was then able, through step work and through connecting with people and building relationships and making amends and restoration of sanity and not making those choices and, all those insane things that I did, then I was able to come to a point of some forgiveness, ultimately. That one's still tough sometimes. Some days I'm not as forgiving of myself, but mostly I am. It's a process, and I'm human and I'm fallible, and and through that, then being able to primary purpose, carry a message, do service, and give back to other people, I've been able to find some healing, and it's full circle, at that, with all of that. Today I'm married to the love of my life. We have 3 daughters. We have 2 grandsons, a 10-year-old and a 3.5-year-old grandson. We have a baby girl on the way that's going to live in our town where I can get my hands on her because the other 2 are in South Dakota and North Georgia, so they're not here or there. But my life today is, I'm not the same person. I'm not. The fundamental change happened for me. My clean date is January 11th of 1999. My daughter's birthday is January 11th, 1999, right? We get to celebrate every year together. We get to celebrate and honor each other. And these are things like I never knew that I could hope for, right? I never knew that was possible. And what I've learned is that anything is possible. Anything is possible. If relationships are busted and broken and I've damaged and caused harm, man, if I stay clean and I do recovery and I help other people, anything is possible. You can't convince me otherwise. I have the evidence. Anything, right? And today, my life is, my home group is Keep It Simple on Thursday night at 7 o'clock. And I sponsor 13 women. I love you, Maria. She's here. She's one. And I do my own work with my sponsor. Every month we meet, and I'm on the 5th tradition right now. And I love Narcotics Anonymous, man, and it's a gift. This is a gift. I know that I know I've probably gone too long. I know there's a whole lot of my story that I haven't shared. Like, there's a lot. Like, I hit on some high points and I probably drug it out a little bit too long in some places. I don't know. You guys can tell me later. But I know that recovery is like, I am immersed. My recovery is in a place right now that I had never been before. Never. When my husband and I got married, we went on our honeymoon, and when we came back from the honeymoon, I moved in with him from Heartland area to the Suncoast, right? It's about an hour and a half from each other. So I had to start over. I have some connections still in Heartland area. Those are, I have to be intentional about keeping those, like Mike was talking about. But man, when I got to Suncoast, I hadn't experienced having to move to a new area before, and I knew that I had to plug in. I knew I had to, and it made all the difference. All the difference. My recovery today, man, I'm excited about recovery. Let me tell y'all, my recovery is thriving. And I go to a meeting every day. Almost every day. Except Tuesday, because that's date night. Don't call me on Tuesday. Call your sponsee sister or somebody else. Don't call me on Tuesday. That's my time when we try to honor that, because my marriage is important today, I have my recovery program, and he has his recovery program. They mix, but we are two separate people. When somebody asks me, where's your other half? Oh, it's a joke. Because, and I become a hole. And I say, I'm a hole. Yay! That was my attempt at humor. Oh, man. I love recovery. If I'm not working on my recovery, I'm working on my relapse. Right? If you're not going to meetings, get busy. If you're not doing step work, get busy. If I'm not helping people, I need to get busy. Right? We don't get an opportunity like this to just squander it. How dare I not be grateful? How dare I not be grateful? Gratitude is action. I need to do some things. I need to help some people. If I feel all caught up and unhappy or mixed up, if I get out of myself for 1 minute and help somebody else, regardless of whether they're in recovery or not, or a family member or whatever, man, if I can get out of me for 5 seconds, something in that works. I don't know. I just know it does. I have evidence of it. I love our literature. I love step work. Man, this program is by far better than anything else I've ever found. Anything else. Did I miss anything? I'm grateful. Thank you for letting me share.